everybody, welcome to Felicity Yarn Studio. If you're new here, my name is Zoe. This is my little space where I like to share all of the making that I have been doing over the last few weeks. So of course, if you want to find links to anything or find me on social media, I also have an Etsy shop. Links to all of that will be down below in the description box. And yeah, I have a lot to catch you guys up on. I think the last time I recorded was sometime in March. So we're nearing towards the end of April now. And I did go and visit Naomi, my sister. She is the yarn curator. Go check out her channel as well. I flew down to visit her in Florida at the beginning of the month, so I have a few stash acquisitions to share with you guys that I picked up down there, as well as some of the travel knitting that I did, and yeah, just some other things that I have been working on. Of course, with it being spring, I have been doing a bit of a stash clean out. For those of you who have been here like from the very early days, I used to record out here on the sunroom. Over the last year or so, my neighbors have been doing a lot of yard working. They've been clearing some of the trees out of the lots around us, so there's been a lot of background noise, which is why I kept most of my recordings upstairs. The chipmunks are out, so pardon me if I get distracted, but I wanted to come out here. The light was really nice today. It was actually quiet, and I've been kind of sprucing up the sunroom, so I wanted to record out here again. Fair warning up top, I have not made any show notes. I'm just gonna kind of fly by the seat of my pants. I've just gathered everything up and have it piled in front of me here, so we're just gonna go where the flow takes us. I haven't been doing any spinning since the last time I recorded. My spinning mojo has just kind of abandoned me. But yeah, it's been 100% knitting for me over the last month. So let's go ahead and get started. So obviously I have a finished object to share with you guys. This is my Aurai Cardigan, and I'll pop some footage on the screen of what it looks like for, you know, full body shots and whatnot. So the pattern is written by Megan Nodecker of Pip and Pin, and the yarn that I used is from Kindred Red, and the colorway is called Crystalline. I love this colorway. It is quite the vibrant, just full of life spring colorway of my dreams. I love the pops of the neon peach, and combined with the periwinkle blue. I've been very much in a kind of periwinkle lavender phase here lately. This pattern was actually a lot of fun to knit, and I absolutely adore the fit of this. It's exactly what I was looking for. I really wanted a cardigan that I could just throw on around the house, something kind of loose and drapey, which is again exactly what this is. It is intended as an oversized design. So as I've noted before, there is a like faux cable detail that you do along the raglan increases. So since it's a cardigan, you are knitting flat, so knit and purl. Knit on the right side, purl on the wrong side, but that faux cable detail really helps keep your interest throughout the raglan increases, because those rows get super long, like 500 plus stitches before you separate for the sleeves. And that being said, I think I've talked about before how I really like the way that little faux cable detail kind of follows along underneath the arm. But yeah, once you separate for the sleeves, again, it's just back and forth, knit, purl. And surprisingly, the body went by a lot faster than I was expecting. I did knit the body a bit longer than what the pattern called for. I don't remember exactly what it called for, but I did wind up knitting about 12 inches of body before I did the hem. So it does have a split hem, and it's ever so slightly a high-low hem. And for the rib for the hem and for the button band with no buttons and the cuff on the sleeves, it is a twisted rib. So normally when I do twisted rib, it's on something like the cuff of a sock or a hat brim, so in the round. So doing twisted rib flat means that you have to twist your purl stitches as well when you're doing it on the wrong side. So that was like for the first few rows, but honestly, once I got into it, it wasn't that big of a deal. And all of the kind of edgings, nothing's longer than like 1.5 inches or 2 inches. So it wasn't like a crazy amount of, you know, downtime on that. I didn't mind it at all. I really did not. I love everything about this cardigan. So much so that I think I want to cast on another one in the near future. I picked up this yarn at SAF, the Southeastern Animal Fiber Festival that is held every year in Asheville. I picked this up last year from Haute Boheme Fibers in the dark chocolate colorway. I have 4 of these and I love this, just like super dark, almost reddish chocolate brown color. It looks really bright out here actually in the sunlight, but inside it almost looks black. Kind of thinking I want one in this colorway since it's a much more neutral. It'll be a lot more toned down than this super bright. Very happy. I love this, but something that I would actually like throw on to go out to the store or, you know, wherever. This is something that I could see myself wearing on a daily basis. So again, I enjoyed knitting this a ton. I highly recommend the pattern. It was really well written. I think I'm gonna be casting on a second one of these in that yarn once I finish up 1 or 2 things here. Originally when I bought that yarn, I had wanted to make the Flax Light by Tin Can Knits, just because I've knit a few basic fingering weight top-down raglan sweaters, and I kind of had the idea in the back of my mind of like reviewing them all and kind of showing you the differences between them. That being said, I have more than enough fingering weight sweater quantities in my stash that one day I will eventually get to that. But yeah, I've been itching to work with this yarn ever since I bought it. The colorway is just speaking to me. It's absolutely gorgeous. So one thing that I have noticed lately with my knitting mojo is the projects that are holding my interest more are the projects where I'm really enjoying the yarn. So I have a feeling if I cast this on, I'm gonna fall in head first on that. So that's why I want to finish up 1 or 2 things before I get to that. I do have a second finished object to share with everyone. This is a pair of vanilla socks that I have been knitting on. This is in one of my colorways that I dyed up called Summer Nights. It is a colorway that is inspired by kind of the twilight hour here in the mountains, when all of the fireflies start popping up out of the ground around like late May, early June. I cast these on a while ago. The last time you guys saw them, I was way down here where this neon stitch marker is. Again, I did them 2 at a time, toe up. So where this marker is, that is where I started doing a few increases. I did a German short row heel. I cast on 68 stitches, and I'm normally a 72 stitch sock person. But again, I'm kind of playing with the fit of my hand knit socks right now. I've been feeling like I need a little bit tighter of a fit of a sock. So I did want to add a few extra stitches before I did the German short row heel. So I think I did like 3 increases, so a total of 6 stitches. And then you can kind of see where I decreased down afterwards. And yeah, it was super simple. Kind of your standard increase and decrease where you increase on one row, knit an even round, do another increase row, even round, increase row. I don't remember if I did another even round after that, but not like one round is gonna make a huge difference. But I kind of wanted to sit down and take the measurements of exactly where I started these increases because this pair actually fits me really well. I want to kind of jot down the specifics so I don't have to sit there and try on a sock every few rows to find that perfect separating point for putting in an afterthought heel. Short row heel. Short row heels are not my favorite fit, but man, they are so easy and so convenient that you go ahead and knit them in, and then when you get to the top, you're just absolutely done with the sock. So this was like one of my main travel knitting projects when I went to go see Naomi. I was past the heel at that point. I basically just knit the cuffs as my airport knitting. the day I flew out, we had like a 4-hour delay for fog, and it was so weird because when we drove to the airport, there was absolutely no fog anywhere, and as soon as we pulled into the airport parking lot, like, just came out of nowhere. Made no sense. Anyway, summer nights, vanilla socks. I do have some of this in the shop if anybody is in a speckly neon mood. One other thing I'll say is they do look quite different, and that is because I knit from 2 different ends of the ball for this. So that is a really good lesson in why you should alternate your skeins of hand-dyed yarn. Yeah, they're just, no matter what you do to try to get things even, things are never going to be perfectly even with hand-dyed yarn. So that's one of the things that I personally love about speckled yarn. I just figured that was a really good visualization of why you should do that. So that's it for my finished objects. I will cruise into my works in progress next. I think the next one I'm going to share, I will stay on the limey neon green theme here. Me and Gemma of Gemma B Makes are hosting a Laurel Along. Laurel's a pattern by Anna Gervaux, who is Along avec Anna. This is a pattern of hers, and we both just loved it so much that we decided to cast it on at the same time and run a little bit of a knit along here. So this is my Laurel, and I was right about here right before separating for the sleeves the last time you guys saw it. So I've gotten through a few of the color work motifs. I am just using some undyed sock yarn with some hand spun yarn that I spun last year during Tour de Fleece. This was a braid from Wound Up Fiber Arts in the Lightning Bug colorway. So yes, I realize this is quite an eyeful here. I'm very heavy on the neons today. Actually, that might be kind of the last of the neons here, but I'm really loving how this is working up. I personally love some subtle contrast color work. Personally, I know it kind of goes against the rules of color work, and not everybody loves that, but I don't know, I think there's something interesting about kind of like the faded, antiqued almost look that you get with a low contrast color work, especially with the oh, what's it called? Fractal spun, hand spun yarn, the way that the colors kind of subtly change, and the barber pulling also kind of subtly changes. I will have more than enough yarn for this. And actually, I'm thinking, for me personally, I might just do mine as short sleeves. Like, I kind of just want some cap sleeves on this. Not that I have a problem knitting colorwork sleeves, I'm a little bit lazy. But every time I knit a top-down colorwork jumper, I'm like, oh, this would be super cute as a short sleeve version versus the long sleeves. And this time I think I'm going with it. I'm gonna knit the body. I might do 1 or 2 of the colorwork motifs on the sleeve and call it a day. So the knit along is running through the end of June. The only thing you have to do to, enter to win some of the prizes. That reminds me, I did pull a prize, some yarn from my stash the other day. I'm gonna go run upstairs and get it in a minute, but the knit along is running until the end of June. Again, all you have to do to enter that is use the hashtag Laurel Knit Along on Instagram. That is where we are hosting this. So I would love to see any of the Laurels that you guys are knitting. Absolutely no pressure to finish by the end of June. At the rate that I'm going, that will be, we shall see if that will happen. I totally just lost a bunch of stitches as well, but no big deal. I will fix that later. Laurel Knit Along. Come join us, knit a Laurel. Gemma's is absolutely beautiful. She's also using some hand spun yarn. So if you've hand spun your contrast colorway, no pressure to do that. That earns you an extra entry for some prizes. So give me a second, I will be right back. So for my spinners, I have 2 braids of this color that I dyed up for one of my past Laurel iterations. This is a Targhee bamboo silk blend. I have 2 of these braids. I can only hold one at a time. But this will be a prize for my spinners. If you're just a knitter, no shame in that game. I pulled these skeins from my stash. I have a skein of La Bien Aimée sock yarn, the Melogenic Clouds, I'm sure I'm not saying that right, is the name of the colorway. And then the mini is from Kristen's Fiber Studio. I'm pretty sure I picked this up at SAF one year, but I thought that they went together so nicely and that would make a really pretty little sock set as a prize. I feel like there's cat hair all over everything right now, so apologies if you wind up with this yarn and there's cat hair all over it. Moving right along, I do have another garment whip to share with you guys. Right before I went down to Florida, I had finished my outline tee and I was super pleased with how that turned out. I love that thing. I'm actually getting tons of wear out of it. It is knit from a cotton and linen blend from Ritual Dyes. And I enjoyed that so much that when I went down to Florida, I knew I wanted to find some more kind of summery, lightweight blends that I could make some more kind of summer garments out of, being that a lot of the yarn shops down there tend to carry more than what you find up here, even though it gets just as, well, maybe not just as hot, but it gets pretty close to being just as hot and humid up here in North Carolina as it does down in Florida in the summertime, believe it or not. So with that in mind, the yarn shop near Naomi's house was doing a pretty big sale. I think originally they were going out of business, but then at the last minute they found a buyer. So when we went in there, the owner was actually talking about, you know, going over last minute things before the sale went through. So one of the things that they had on sale was some Shibui, and I picked up 2 garment quantities because I'm not really making sweaters out of them. 2 project quantities worth of some linen blends. This one is 70% linen, 30% mulberry silk. It's the Koan colorway or base, Koan base, I don't know. And the colorway is actually called Tar, but it's kind of a blue gray. Tar to me is more of like a gray, brown gray. I don't know. Anyway, I picked up 4 of these to make the outline tank since I really enjoy my outline tee, and I do wear a lot of tank tops in the summertime. So I have cast on and I am almost to the end. This is what I have left of the first ball. I have 4 of them, so the other one is caked up inside and waiting for me. But again, it's not too different from the outline tee in that you cast on from the bottom up, knit to the arms, and then split. And I think the main difference is that you're gonna knit 4 triangles, 2 for the front and 2 for the back, and then like the strips for the straps of the tank. So yeah, I decided to go ahead and cast this on again because how much I love my outline tee. This is gonna have the same drop stitch details. I don't remember, I think it still has them down the front and down the side. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I did do a gauge swatch. It's inside. I promise I did my gauge swatch, and I actually decided to go down a needle size on this. I did not get any of the weird shrinking of my gauge like I did with the cotton and linen. So the linen and silk actually seemed to stay pretty true to what I was actually knitting at. The only thing that I will say about this yarn that I don't love is it's a 2-ply and it's super loosely plied. So let me see. So that ply gets really loose really easily. And sometimes when I'm knitting this, I am splitting the yarn, and I mean, it's easy to catch and easy to correct, but since this colorway is so dark when I'm sitting in the living room at night, unless I have my little neck lamp thing on, it's very hard to see, and I'm really worried about some of the splits sometimes, but again, not the end of the world. This was another case of twisted rib cast on, where I swear it took me 3 days to get through like 1.5 inches of twisted rib cast on, but it's worth it. I think it looks really neat. I really like how kind of clean and tight it gets versus a regular rib. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this, just kind of picking this up on the nights when I want to go round and round and round without thinking about anything. I want to say the pattern calls for 9 inches of body for my size before you split for the, it's not really sleeves, before you split for the you know, separating the front from the back. We'll see. I think I did the body of my outline tee a little bit longer than that, but then I kind of wished it had been a little bit shorter in the end. I don't know. I think about 10 inches is where I want to wind up with this. Based off the yardage from the pattern, I could have gotten away with 3 of these, but I went on ahead and bought 4 just to be safe in case I want to make that body a little bit longer. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Again, I got a steal on the Shibui. It was like 60% off, so I don't know how I was supposed to turn that down. It's not really stash acquisitions time, but since I'm already talking about it, I'll just go ahead and show y'all. I wound up getting 5 skeins in this blend, which is Reed. It's their 100% linen, and this one is a chain ply. Colorway is Ash, and I think this is also a fingering weight. So I don't have a specific pattern picked out for this. I kind of went loosely based off of yardage for a few different like summery t-shirt patterns. 5 of these ought to be plenty to knock something like that out. So maybe a Tenya, maybe the Mount Pleasant tee, which I think is another Megan Nodecker pattern. I've been kind of cruising Ravelry casually, thinking about what I want to make out of this. I also know that Wool and Pine, they were putting out a test knit call last week for a summer top, which I really debated for a hot minute signing up for that test knit. But while I love test knitting, I've also really been enjoying knitting without a deadline and kind of knitting what I want to make for the last month or two, few months now. Keep an eye out for the new Wool and Pine design, which will probably be about in a month or two, I'm guessing, based off of their test knitting deadlines. So I think I only have one other whip to share with you guys, and then I'll breeze through the last few acquisitions that I got. So a few months ago, I went through my stash and I separated skeins that I have plans for versus skeins that I don't. And within the skeins that I have plans for bin, I had about 12 or 14 single skeins, and they all kind of made a giant fade. I loosely had plans for them in the back of my mind, and that yes, they would work as a fade. I've always wanted to make the fading point shawl, even though it's a lot of lace, and faded flax light or something along those lines. But again, they all kind of work together, and my big grand plan was to just make a blanket because my track record with blankets is so great. So yeah, I caked them all up. I wound up with about 1,600 grams of yarn altogether. I'm just gonna put a picture on the screen of all of them because I'm not pulling out 16 cakes of yarn right now to show you guys. But anyway, yes, I just bit the bullet and I decided to cast on a corner to corner garter stitch blanket. So here is where I am at so far. I have knit through, all right, so the like aqua blue color was a mini that I had, and I held that with the first skein, which was from Stranded Dye Works in the colorway Feathered. I think Naomi gave me that skein from one of her shopping trips down to 4 Pearls. Held that until it ran out, and then I just held Feathered doubled until I got almost to the end, and I started holding it with the next colorway, which is this one. This was from Toad Hollow. I want to say this was from their advent calendar, the full-size skein that came with that when I got their calendar 2-3 years ago. I picked it up at SAF. So then once Feathered ran out and I was left with just this, I then just paired it with the next skein. This looks like a hot mess right now. It's not that bad, I promise. This is from one of my advent calendars. This was the colorway Opal from the Crystal and Gemstones calendar that I did 2 or 3 Christmases ago. So yeah, this is going to be moving into some like pastel green shades, into some yellows and creams, and then it kind of transitions into some peaches and pinks and winds up kind of in like a dusky gray other end. So yeah, I'm kind of loosely just going to do like try to get through 6 skeins for the increases, and then I will work even to make a rectangular shape. I don't want a square blanket. I want a rectangular one. I'll work even through whatever is not left of the 6. Because again, I've kind of got some minis and other things thrown in there to kind of pad the yardage. So I don't know how big of a blanket this is gonna make. I was initially just kind of thinking like a couch blanket, something I could snuggle under, but now I'm like, I'm just gonna see how wide it gets when I get through increasing with all 6. So I am holding them double-stranded. Duh. I'm not doing this single. And I'm using size 7 needles, 4.5 millimeters. And yeah, I'm really loving this. I'm super addicted to this. The rows are beginning to get a little bit long. It's getting there. So I'm sure the rows are gonna get really sloggy here soon, but this is what I want. This is what I wanted to knit on. Again, this is another case of I loved each and every one of these individual skeins, right? They've been in my stash for years now. I'm kind of breaking the habit of buying individual skeins unless they're for sock yarn. And I have like 25 skeins of sock yarn still in my stash. So I was like, you know what? I'm just tired of these taking up space. This is what I want to knit. And I'm loving it. So again, the yarn is very much kind of dictating my enjoyment of this project right now. So yeah, I'm loving the Garter Squish blanket. So I just looked on Ravelry. There's a free corner to corner blanket. I think it's supposed to be like a baby blanket pattern. And again, I kind of modded it to make a rectangular shape, which just means that if you've never knit like a granny's favorite dishcloth or anything, you knit 3, yarn over, and keep knitting. So you're increasing 1 on each row. To make it then into a rectangular shape, you still do that increase on one side, and then you do a decrease coming back on the other row. So knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, to create that like rectangular shape. You're increasing and decreasing at the same rate, and it creates the rectangle. I'm sure I'm not explaining this well at all, but it works. Just trust me, it works. So yeah, that is it for my whips. I did start a vanilla pair of leftover socks out of the crystalline colorway, but I don't know, vanilla socks are kind of boring to me because I've made a gazillion of them and y'all see them everywhere, and everybody's vanilla pattern is a little bit different. So I'm implementing a new policy here. Vanilla socks will only get shown once they are finished. So yeah, stash acquisitions. Again, I bought my Shibui project's worth. That was at the Creativity Shop in Largo, just down the road from Naomi's. And oh, I bought me a little mini as well because I can't resist minis. And this is from Ridiculous Hand-Dyed Yarn. colorway is called Rock Candy. I don't know, I just thought it was really pretty, and it will go nicely in some of the blankets and or socks or whatever. I have a weakness for minis. I can't help it. So that was what I purchased down in Largo. Then one of the days I was there, we drove up to Brooksville and we saw the aunties who make our fat bottom bags, which I don't actually have one out here with me. They're housing some of my projects inside. So they supply some of their bags to the Pan Banged knit shop, Pan Banged Yarns and Knits. I'm blanking on the exact name, but they're in downtown Brooksville. One of the things that I thought about long and hard while we were in that shop were some Noro cakes, because I love my hand spun shifty, but I'm actually thinking I'm gonna frog it because Andrea Mowry released an update to that pattern to make the fit a little bit better, and I haven't yet separated for the sleeves on that, so I'm actually gonna rip that out and restart it, but that's, again, another project for another time at this point. But I was like, no, Zoe, you don't need to just buy new yarn for that project when you have like enough hand spun to make 2 or 3 of those tops. I looked at another kind of linen cotton blend, and then I was like, I felt kind of over that because I had just bought 2 projects worth. I was just kind of perusing around what was in the hand-dyed yarn section, and I found this one single skein of Spun Right Round. It's a DK base in the Quake colorway, and it actually looks really similar to the yarn that I started knitting Jason's mittens out of. So I was like, well, just in case I don't have enough left of the sock yarn that I'm making his mittens out of, I can make him a matching, close to matching, coordinating hat out of this DK weight yarn. So that just felt like serendipitous. And I picked up a few like notions and things in there. She had some pretty reasonably priced Knitter's Pride needles. So that was the extent of my spending. And then last time I talked with you guys, I was having a crisis over spinning up a sock yarn for myself because I had spun up the skein for Jason, deep blue, deep something from Wound Up Fiber Arts. And I wanted to do a his and her sock spin. So I purchased some fiber from her last weekend on her last update. This is the colorway Higher. It's not at all what I was envisioning, but obviously I was feeling the kind of peachy, neon-y shades still. So I think this will actually spin up really pretty. It'll kind of tone down quite a bit, and they still kind of coordinate with each other. Not that it matters, not like we're gonna be out wearing socks together, like showing them off, but it's just one of those things. You get an idea in your head and you have to do it. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, once I opened this actually showed up yesterday. When I opened the package, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to go hop on my wheel and get this started. Whereas like, I mean, my wheel sits in front of me most days and I just haven't felt like ready to go hop on it. So this did it, which means that I will save those 2 very similar braids. I never opened them up and looked at them and figure out what I'm gonna do with those. I think they need to be spun together. They're just way too close to not spin together or something. So that just about does it for everything that I have to share with you guys. One quick note, I am planning on doing advent calendars this year. I am in my April, May last minute panic. Gotta figure out all the details before I start listing them. I do list them in June and they'll be in my Etsy shop. I have no idea what the theme is gonna be at this point. I do this to myself every year. I will go round and round and round and then come back to my original idea and run with that. So I don't know. I will be posting about that soon on Instagram. Again, if you're joining us for the Laurel Along, please go on Instagram and share your projects. Use that hashtag Laurel Knit Along. Me and Gemma are super happy to see what you guys are making. I will be back in about a month or so. Who knows? Sometimes I'm really good about that. Sometimes I'm not. I might be coming to you from the beach. We're going to the beach at the end of May, so we shall see. And in the meantime, I hope that you are enjoying your knitting, that it is not giving you problems. I hope that you're using yarn that you really enjoy, because that is what is speaking to me at the moment. So yes, happy knitting, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.